And welcome back, Bears fans, to the Week 15 edition of the Bears Brothers postgame show. As the Bears unfortunately fell 30-27 to the bitter rival, the Green Bay Packers. And now, guys, the series is all tied up at 93, 93, and 6. And since the Packers won, they have now won seven straight games at Soldier Field, which is embarrassing considering, especially that's Papa Bear's number. And I'm upset that the Bears weren't able to come away with this victory. That said, there was a lot to take away that was positive in that fourth quarter, but I'm gonna break this all down because I am your host, Will DeWitt, and today I am flying solo as Brandon is traveling with his family for the holidays, and Nick was lucky enough to be at this game. We're gonna try to call him in here very soon, but for the most part, guys, I am flying solo today, so bear with me. And before I get down to breaking down this Bears game, I urge you to subscribe to our YouTube channel as you receive a notification each and every time that we go live. So let's go ahead and enter the first quarter of our show, which consists of our opening segments and our most valuable Bears. And let's start the show like we always do with my monster moment. And it's going to have to be the third down sack by Pernell McPhee in the fourth quarter. The Bears were down by 10, and it's the second time that Vic Fangio dialed up the right pressure coming out of a timeout, facing a big third down in the game. He did it in the first quarter, and he also did it again in the fourth. And it led to a 9-play, 78-yard drive in which the Bears were able to come within 3 points. And for me, that big sack by McPhee is going to have to be my monster moment of the game. So next, I usually kick it over to Brandon for a stat of the game, but since I am flying solo, I'm going to have to give you my stat of the game, and that's going to have to be the Packers had 17 points off of the Bears' 3 turnovers in the third quarter. That's when the game went from 10-10 to 27-10. If the Bears would have been able to mitigate just one of those turnovers, or at least stop the Packers after one of those turnovers, this could have been an entirely different ballgame because the Bears definitely started to heat up in that fourth quarter. But overall, those points off turnovers was a big reason why the Bears were unable to come away with the victory. If we get Nick in here, I'm going to try to call him now. If we do, we'll definitely go ahead and get his Nick's knack or knocks for the game. But while we're waiting, I want to hand out my most valuable Bear. And mine is going to have to be Deontay Thompson. I thought he came up with a bunch of big-time plays today, especially on third down, coming towards the end of that game. I thought it was crucial for the Bears. And really, in a game in which Alshon Jeffrey came back, we really thought it was going to be all eyes on him. But really, Deontay Thompson, he led all Bears receivers with 110 total yards. You know what? I might have to actually change this because when you look at the box score, Deontay Thompson and Cameron Meredith combined for 17 receptions for 224 yards. And that is impressive for these two receivers. And Thompson, someone who's been struggling, someone who we've given, some flack here these last couple of weeks. Hey, Nick, you here, man?
I'm here. What's going on, Will?
Hey, not too much. How you feeling? You cold?
I'm actually warming up now that we're moving, actually, but yeah, I was cold definitely for the entire game. That's for sure.
Hey, you know what? You're in perfect timing here. Do you want to give a knack or a knock for this game?
Knock has got it. I'm going to give it a knock only because we cannot establish any type of running game today. And the Packers did that. They ran all over us today. It's really opposite. We passed all over the Packers defense, and the Bears, I don't know. It's just I thought it'd be reversed. That's for sure.
No, exactly. No, yeah, we gave up 226 yards on the ground today, Nick. I'm sure you saw each and every one of those there at the game. But, that wasn't fun. But do you have a most valuable Bear today while you're here?
Most valuable, I'm going to go with Alshon Jeffrey. Even though he didn't show up until late in the third quarter, he at least showed up, and he showed why he is our number one target. I mean, without him, this offense really wasn't moving much, and he was actually able to get into the end zone. But I'm going to give it to Alshon Jeffrey. Barkley, I would have given it to Barkley, but he had a few pretty bad interceptions. I'm going to go with Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, no, that was a rough third quarter for Matt Barkley. All right, man. Do you have any other observations? How was it there in the cold today? Was it bad?
It was bad, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, the crowd was into it, and, there's a lot more Green Bay Packers fans. That's kind of disappointing here. I heard a lot of Go Pack Goes, and actually, as we were leaving the stadium, you just heard a huge chant of Go Pack Go, and like, man, that ain't right. This ain't Lambeau. This is Soldier Field.
Exactly. Wow. But,
yeah, so,
go ahead.
It was a great time, though, and where's my friend at? I don't even see him. He's right there. First game here, first game at Soldier Field, so It was a good time, though.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time, Nick. Before you head off, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share about this game? And then I can let you
Uh,
go ahead and catch the train.
yeah. The only thing is that I saw Cravon LeBlanc lined up on Jordy Nelson for the very last play.
Right.
That obviously killed us at the end, and I knew as soon as he lined up on him one on one, something bad was going to happen. But fun time. Bears should have gone to at least overtime, but
Hey,
it didn't turn out the way we wanted to.
all right, one more question. I'm going to let you
Yeah.
go. Last touchdown of the game for the Bears. Do you go for it? Not touchdown. The field goal down there, 4th and goal. Do you go for it or do you kick that field goal?
You know what? Why not go for it? I mean, you're not playing for anything. The Bears aren't, and ruin the Packers' season. I think I would have gone for it.
No, I'm on exactly the same boat. A big part of me wishes that the Bears would have just went for it there. But thanks, Nick, for joining me for this brief moment. But you go ahead, you catch the train, go get warm because you need to do it. You've been out there for quite a long time, man.
Sounds good, Will. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. I'll see you later on. Safe
Yep.
travels.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Well, that was our Nicholas Moriano joining us right after Soldier Field because, like I said, he was lucky enough to go ahead and attend the game today, which I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying being warm in my own house, not going to lie. All right. So before we enter the second quarter, and I'm going to go ahead and break down this Bears offensive attack, I want to talk to you about our friends at SeatGeek because SeatGeek, they changed the game when it comes to looking for tickets because for a long time it's been such a confusing process for fans to find the best deal when it comes to buying third-party tickets. But SeatGeek's one of the first places I go. I know Nick's family's used it as well. And a really cool thing about SeatGeek is they really help you get the most bang for your buck. That's why every ticket on SeatGeek, they give it a grade based on value. You'll immediately see any underpriced seats and be able to find the best deal that fits your budget. And the best part of it all, guys, is that our listeners get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. And to get that $20 rebate, all you have to do is download the SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab and add a promo code. Enter the promo code BEARS, BEARS, BEARS. All righty. Well, I'm Will DeWitt, and I am breaking down this Bears 30-27 loss to the Green Bay Packers. And we're entering the second quarter of the show. And we're going to go ahead and break down this offensive matchup. And let's start like we always do with the man under center. And Barkley, this was his 4th start. The Bears have unofficially had 18 drop passes without Alshon Jeffrey in those last 3 starts. But the drops, they kind of came in this game as well. They weren't going away. I mean, it wasn't as bad as it has been, to be honest, but still too many drops for my liking. But it was pretty cool. A fun part that I like from Barkley, his play today. He kind of looked like the other number 12, Aaron Rodgers. He did a really good job of eluding pressure. He had that one in the second drive that he eluded the pressure, rolled to his left, and just found Josh Bellamy deep down the field. But, of course, Bellamy was unable to hang on. But, yeah, Barkley did a really good thing, especially being under pressure. At the first half, he ended up with a 101.6 rating. He was averaging 10.1 yards per pass. That average dipped now for the final. He averaged about 8.4 yards per pass. And his rating dropped to an 81.7 due to those third quarter interceptions. Because let's talk about that. Because that was a very awful third quarter. I said on Twitter, let's not talk about it again. But we need to at least discuss it real quick on the post-game show. Because he had 3 turnovers in the first 3 possessions of that second half. He had the fumble, and then he had the interception to Ha Dix. Well, 2 of them, but the first one, he threw the triple coverage and the ball was high. It wasn't one of his smartest throws. And then the other one, again, another ball that just kind of sailed for him over the middle. I think that one he was targeting Daniel Braverman. But fun fact here, Mike Barkley, no matter, I don't know where you're sitting with him. I'm still on the fence either way. I think the Bears need to bring him back next year, but you don't anoint him the starter. I think you definitely need to bring in competition and let him go in and beat it. But a really fun fact here is that he finished with the most yards thrown by a Bears quarterback going against Green Bay. He threw for 362 yards. That's the most since Jim Miller in 2002. I forgot the exact stat on it, but I know it was more than Jim. And not only that, but Barkley in this game, he proved that he's able to overcome his own mistakes. And not only that, but he also proved that he can make his team rally in the fourth quarter when down by double-digit score. And I think that's something that should not go unnoticed. Yes, the third quarter is bad, but for the most part, that fourth quarter, I think for the most part, kind of made up for it a little bit. But yeah, that's Matt Barkley. So let's talk about the Chicago Bears rushing attack because it had a really tough time getting going for the most part. But Jordan Howard, he did finish with 17 carries, 90 yards. He averaged 5.3. At one point, he was only averaging like 2.4 yards per carry. He was able to heat up. He finished with the 1 touchdown. But the one thing that still bothers me, I understand the Bears were down, but even beforehand, maybe somewhere in that first half of the game, but just give him a few more touches, even if it wasn't working. I think that Jordan Howard, he's a back that gets better as the game wears on. And 17 carries is still not enough. I still wish he can have 20. Remember, the Bears are undefeated when he has at least 20 carries in the game. But yeah, and then even more, Langford, he only had the 1 carry for 4 yards, but he did have that really big pickup on the Bears' final drive there as they were marching into the red zone. Then Kadeem Carey, he finished with the 1 rush for the 1 yard. If you recall, that was the play in which he just got clobbered in the seat just till he came off the side of his helmet, which was pretty cool to see, not going to lie. Switching over to the Bears receiving corps, Deontay Thompson, he led with the yards. I already talked about him and Meredith. Alshon Jeffrey. Let's talk about Alshon because coming in, obviously we want to see, can he redeem himself after such a poor beginning to the season plus that 4-game suspension? Just to refresh you, in the first meeting between the Packers, he only caught 3 passes for 33 yards on 11 targets. The Packers completely shut him out. Well, in this game, he had 9 targets. He was able to haul in 6 catches for 89 yards with a 14.8 average and the 1 touchdown that Nick talked about earlier. The first target for him was a drop. He obviously had some rest there in the first quarter, but it took him a while to get going. But once he did, he got pretty hot. He had 3 catches for 58 yards on his scoring drive. He also was able to get out a defensive holding penalty, force one of those, which helped extend that drive. But one thing you can definitely tell from Alshon today was that he was just getting gassed more and more as the game wore on. Obviously, conditioning is an issue after being away for 4 games. Cameron Meredith, one thing I want to note, he's just starting to really do some special things after the catch. And on top of that, he's becoming a really excellent route runner. And I think he's really evolving to be a legitimate threat as we move forward, especially next year. Deontay Thompson, he finished with 8 catches today. He only had 11 total for the season coming into the game. He had a few big catches over the middle for first downs. Liked what I saw from him today. Bellamy, he had that drop, but it almost made up for it again with that wicked stiff arm on his way into the end zone for his touchdown today. Because that stiff arm, it was just brutal. It was legal, but it was brutal. But that's something you like to see, especially Bears versus Packers. Those type of grit plays, not going down, not giving up, continuing to fight for each and every yard. The Bears offensive line today, I thought they did a pretty good job for the most part. Obviously, the one knock here would be Leno's Jr.'s first play of the second half. It was just really bad. He hesitated. He looked inside, which allowed Julius Peppers to run right around him, get that strip sack, got his own fumble, and gave the Packers possession in the red zone, which I think that play really swung the momentum, obviously, for the entire third quarter. But overall, I thought the Bears' offensive line did a pretty solid job today. I mean, that was the only sack on Barkley overall, and they were still able to pave the way for 95 yards on the ground. So not bad. Kind of a mixed bag, but overall, not a bad day by the Bears on the offensive line front. Something that I thought the Bears definitely can get better at is not only maintaining drives, but just finishing them. We saw it early on. The Bears were unable to finish drives, especially there even at the end when the Bears were knocking on the doorstep, but penalties pushed them back. They were unable to overcome them, and they were unable to get the touchdown. Instead, they set up for the field goal. I still think they should have went for it there, but third downs was a big issue for the Bears today for the most part of the game. They started the game 0 for 4. They weren't able to get a single third down conversion until 8 minutes left in the game, and it led to points. And then you also on the following drive, the Bears' final drive of the game, they had 2 more big-time third down conversions. So for a team who was struggling with converting on third down, starting off 0 for 4, they were able to finish off 3 for 10, but still not where you want. I mean, 3 for 8, but that's still not exactly where you want to be in terms of converting on third down. And a big disappointment again is going to have to be the Packers 17 points off the Bears 3 turnovers in the third quarter. That just changed the total, the total game, and it was something that the Bears were unable to completely overcome. All right, well, I'm going to take a sip of water, and then we're going to go ahead and enter the third quarter of our show and talk about this Bears defense. All right, so Bears defense, guys. Rodgers, he came in the last 5 outings against the Bears, just completely tearing them apart. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards, 17 touchdowns, only had the one interception. A big matchup today for me. On top of this, when I was looking at the Bears defense, we're going to see how the Bears pass rushers, Leonard Floyd, Willie Young, Akeem Hicks, how they were all going to fare in this game, because I thought they had the opportunity to perhaps change the game. Rodgers with the calf issue, and also the Packers tackles not being one of, not the best in the league. And I thought the Bears kind of could have had the edge here. But overall, I thought they didn't do too bad. Wilson, he was able to get the sack. But Pernell McPhee, we need to talk about him. He finished the game with 2 sacks today, which was good. The one was obviously the monster moment, but he just did a lot that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. The sleeveless McPhee, he got that big sack on in that third quarter. He showed really throughout this majority of this game. He just showed pure strength. He's able to shed blocks, and on the one sack, the monster moment sack, you can really thank the Bears coverage for that sack, because they were locking down the Packers receivers. Switching over to the outside linebackers, talking about a little more. Willie Young was kind of more of a non-factor today. I saw him out there. I think he finished with 1 tackle, but he didn't do too much out there. Leonard Floyd, he was being used in a variety of ways. You saw him used as a pass rusher. You also saw him in the 3-point stance in the 5-tech. He was also in coverage. I saw him at one point covering Randall Cobb, who was in the slot on third down, which I don't know if I totally agree with Vic, because I think Leonard Floyd, he's one of your best pass rushers, and he should be getting after Aaron Rodgers when it comes to third downs. But overall, I thought they played a pretty good game. The inside linebackers is a big reason why the Bears were struggling so much on defense. I thought you definitely saw the growing pains from Nick Kwiatkowski and John Timu today. The Packers were just able to just run the ball down the Bears' throats for the majority of this game. Like I said, we gave up 226 yards on the ground, which is 9.8 yards per carry. And on top of that, the Bears gave up 3 yards on the ground as well. I think really today the Bears missed Eddie Goldman. They missed, Jarrell Freeman. They missed Danny Trevathan. I think games like today is when you really see how much there is a gap between a Kwiatkowski and a Freeman, a Timu, and a Trevathan. Last week we were pretty high on Nick Kwiatkowski. I was too. I'm not totally down on him. I think it's just more of a growing pain type of day for him, but definitely a day in which he struggled. The Bears secondary, again, I thought they played really well. Had pretty good coverage for most of the game. Yeah, LeBlanc kind of dropped the ball there on the final drive of the game. But for the most part, they really held their own. I thought a lot of the plays in which they gave up pretty big passes were more due to the Bears not able to finish off the pass rush. And I think that's really a big detriment to that. But, the Bears defense did do some things well. They were able to get pressure on Rodgers the majority of the time. According to Pro Football Focus, the Bears did pressure Rodgers on one half of his first half dropbacks, 11 of 22, with 5 different Bears having multiple pressures. I think that dropped off there in a little bit in the second half. But again, the Bears offense was on the field for the majority of that fourth quarter. And on top of that, the first drive of the second half, the Bears, they had their backs against the wall. They started the drive in Green Bay's red zone. This is after the strip sack by Julius Peppers. And they were on the field for 6 plays inside the Packers red zone, but they only gave up 3 yards. I thought that's something we should at least highlight, because that was really good work by that unit. It could have been much worse, but overall they had really good coverage, and they were able to keep them out of the end zone, something that is reminiscent of a Vic Fangio type of defensive performance, keeping opponents out of the end zone. A couple things that the Bears defense didn't do well. Number one, discipline. Penalties hurt us last week, and they did early on in this week. On the second drive, Hicks sacked Rodgers on third down inside the Packers' own 20, but Porter was called for holding and allowed that drive to continue. The Bears did give up 2 penalties that gave Green Bay first downs in that first quarter, and which is a big reason why Green Bay was able to get some points on the board early. But actually, from that point forward, I put that in my notes that penalties was a big issue going in. But the Bears, they only finished with 6 penalties for 40 yards, which, yeah, it's still not great, but much better than the 11 penalties for, 160-ish yards last week. So that was it was improvement, but still something that the Bears need to continue to work on. And something that everyone's pointed out on Twitter, and myself included, is just that the Bears tackling, it was just atrocious today. The first side of it was on Montgomery's 61-yard run in the second quarter, where I saw at least 5, some people say maybe even 8 missed tackles. It was just atrocious. That kept occurring for the most of the game. The Bears, they really just attempted too many arm tackles. In games like today where it's cold, you're just not going to wrap up guys the same as you would if the temperature is a little bit warmer. And I think that showed today with all the missed arm tackles. You really got to just put your body on the ball carrier and bring them down to the ground. You're not going to take down many guys with just your arms. Another thing we kind of already talked about was the Bears just being chewed up down the middle of the field. I think, like I said, they just really missed Goldman, Trevathan, and Freeman today. The Bears' defensive line just had zero push when the Packers attempted running the ball. They were just getting completely blown off the ball, and which is a big reason why the Chicago struggles stopping the run today. And with the two running backs out against the Packers to give up all of those yards on the ground, it just hurts. You don't want to see that. I really didn't think the Packers, because they've struggled running the ball all year, I really didn't think they were going to be able to come in here and run it all over us despite the injuries. I really thought this group was going to be able to contain them, but I was proved wrong there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else here that I want to hit on before I just go ahead and enter the fourth quarter of the show. Matt Barkley did have more yards per pass than Aaron Rodgers, 8 to 6.4. The Bears were able to get 4 sacks for 27 yards. Honestly, I think just the big one, guys, is going to have to just be those penalties in the third quarter. I mean, the more you think about it, the more you just can tell how much they just hurt this Bears team. Imagine if the Bears were able to put up a fourth quarter like they did and only gave up, one touchdown or just that one field goal in the third quarter. I think the Bears would have definitely came away with the victory today. But the Bears did finish with more first downs in Green Bay. That's another stat to pull out real quick. 29 to Green Bay's 20. All right, well, let's enter the fourth quarter of our show, and let's start off with the quick hit on special teams. I thought special teams, for the most part, the Bears did a really good job with today. Bellamy had the one down punt inside the one. The Barth was perfect on the day despite all the situations. The elements really with the weather. He hit all his extra points. He had his field goal, so we're good there. But yeah, I think special teams, the Bears did pretty good, but it wasn't really a big pivotal part of this game. I already talked about penalties, and yeah, that's really about it. I did ask Bears fans to grade this game, so I want to pull up that result real quick. But while I'm pulling it up, I think I'm going to have to give this one probably a B to B minus. The third quarter definitely drags that down. But for the majority of this game, if I was just grading this game solely on the fourth quarter, I'd give them probably a B plus to an A minus. Still, with nothing to lose, I wish the Bears would have just gone for it and try to just spoil the Packers season. But overall, not too bad there. And yeah, looking at the results on Twitter, the 56% of Bears fans give it an F because they lost to the Packers, which really is very true. F because we lost to the Packers. Each and every time, you don't want to lose to this team. I mean, you don't want to lose any game, but you especially don't want to lose to the Packers for the 7th straight time at Soldier Field. All right, well, let's enter the 2-minute warning, and this is the part of the show where I'm just going to wrap up my thoughts on this game, put it into a season-long perspective, and go ahead and look forward to next week. Let's see, where do I start? Really, I think overall, this wasn't a bad game. It was a really bad third quarter, but the game as a whole was not bad. I think Barkley, he had the 3 interceptions, but 2 of them were, I count 2 of them. The one off the Hail Mary, I'm not going to count. But the 2 that he had, I wish that he would have taken back. I mean, I know we all do, but just 2 poor passes over the middle, something that he can definitely correct moving forward, because I think he's shown that he deserves a shot to come back here next year and prove if he can become the starter, establish himself as the legitimate starter, bring in some competition for him. Jordan Howard, he was able to eclipse the 1,000-yard mark today in his 14th game, which was 2 games faster than Gale Sayers, who did it in 16, and also 3 games faster than Walter Payton did it, who took him 17 games. So Jordan Howard is now leading a very crucial stat with some very special company. And I think we might have ourselves a long-term solution at running back, which, given the fact that we had Forte for all these years and now we're jumping right into the Jordan Howard train, this is exciting. We don't have much of a drop-off here, but that's the Chicago Bear way. We pride ourselves on running the football, and Jordan Howard continues to impress. Other than that, the Bears receivers, I think there's obviously some improvement here to be made, but Cameron Meredith deserves a shot to perhaps be the Bears' number 2 receiver next year if Kevin White doesn't show flashes of more improvement as we go through OTAs and training camp. Because especially if White's not able to stay healthy, I like to see Cameron Meredith out there because I think he's really growing to become a very effective football player. Offensive line, again, did a really good job. But overall, this Bears team, I think they showed a lot of grit today. They were down 17 points to start this fourth quarter, and they were able to tie it up, and they only lost by 3. I think that just proves that this team under John Fox still does not quit. Even though the backs are against the wall this season, there's nothing to play for anymore, but this team still doesn't quit. And that's the most exciting and fascinating part about this team, because other eras, like the Trestman era, this team would have given up like 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 weeks ago, but not this Fox-led squad. And I think this proves why John Fox needs to at least stay here for another year, because I think he's building something here, and it's just taking time. But the culture that he's building is one of resiliency and toughness, which I think we should not take for granted, for sure. And then, with the last 2 weeks coming up this year, I just kind of want to see more of the same, more improvement from our young players, consistent growth each and every week. Keep giving me reasons for optimism. Keep giving you reasons for optimism as we look forward to 2017. But yeah, I think, guys, that's really all I have tonight. I do apologize that I had to sit here and do this shorthanded today. But hey, you have to do what you have to do, and I'm still here to break down all the action. So I want to thank you all for watching live or to the replay, and of course, I want to thank all of our podcast listeners. Again, the Bears lost 30-27. They were unable to overcome a very brutal third quarter, but the fourth quarter was something to still hang our hats on. We're going to be back soon with our Week 16 preview later on this week, as we will break down the upcoming game against the Washington Redskins, and we're also going to answer fan questions. So if you have some already you want us to answer, tweet us at the Bears Bros and let us know some of your questions that you have for the rest of the season, perhaps the off season, short-term, long-term. We're here to answer any of your questions. So tweet us to us, and we'll make sure to answer them on our preview show later on in the week. But we will see you soon. Until then, guys, bear down Chicago.